Alright, got this thing all apart, stripped down to here, and as I was getting ready for these trucks, it occurred to me that the side frames that I'm taking from this old Athearn dummy SD40T-2, they're not a perfect match to the C44-9W side frames. I can make them fit. I thought that's kind of dumb because I don't have to, and this is meant to be a rebuild using parts. So here's the thing about these old Athearn Blue Box models. The dummy model has parts, which I took side frames off. The dummy trucks happen to be the same style as the C44 trucks. The side frames fit perfect on them. Now here's the thing, when you take apart the dummy trucks, these are dummy wheel sets. That's what's in there. The gears will fit from the C44. They fit the SD40T-2 just right. Okay, they're the same gears. Basically, the dummy locomotives, they used to be same locomotive minus gears and minus metal wheel sets, but see that they turn just fine. So we're going to go ahead and use those. And the second reason is these trucks that came off the C44 have been painted, and they're not terrible. But I need to solder onto here. I need to solder onto this, and then I need to paint it too. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to take the ones from the dummy, and we'll take these C44 trucks, throw those into the parts bin, and probably use them for a different project later. So now, remember when I talked about the rule about this particular wire brush for your moto tool with the copper shaft? Like I've told you in every video, don't use this thing. This thing will rip apart your parts. This is one of those times where you got to break that rule. And the reason we need to break the rules, we have to accomplish two things. The first thing we have to accomplish is we have to prepare this metal sheet here on the side. It's got to be made so that we can solder to it, and we have to be able to paint on it. So we got to solder to it first, then we've got to go ahead and find a paint that we want to use for this. And I'm thinking something a really dark brown might look pretty good on this. Probably not a black. I want to use I want a little bit of contrast underneath the frame there. So taking this brush I told you not to use, we need to clean these side frames, which I've already done, and then we need to prepare a spot for soldering. And we're going to use the SD40T-2 that we did before as a guide on how to where we're going to solder. So let's just take a look. These are, I already cleaned them up pretty good. There's a few spots I'm going to hit with this. Now this will clean the metal. It can lead to rusting later, because this gets it down to bare metal, which is what we're going to need for paint and solder. We're going to solder on each side of these. We're going to put, like we did before, what we did here, we've got our red wire and our black wire, and I like to use red and black. Red goes, this is the front, red to the right side, black to the left side. We're going to make another one of these little stand-in strips. This is where we will put DCC if we're going to make it into DCC. And I like to make these little stand-in strips. Make sure your wiring nice, neat, and clean, and then when you want to do DCC, You're ready to roll right here. That's where you can put your DCC. It's totally DCC ready. Alright, so essentially, now the top tab right here, the little arm, that is going to be our red wire. And that one goes in front of the locomotive, and we'll go here. When these are together, it will be on the right side. Okay, this one's bent. Okay, now, like we did with the SDP40, in that one we drilled a hole into the frame and put a screw in there with solder on it. This one we're not going to do that. Since we've got metal on the trucks right here, we're going to go ahead and we are going to solder our black wire directly to the side of the truck so we can bypass the frame entirely. This frame will still be powered, but we are going to get our power directly from the trucks, not from the frame. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, what we're going to do now, remember when I told you guys not to use this? I told you don't use this. I also told you not to use this guy. So what we're going to do, roll up our sleeves, we're going to go ahead and use them. What we got here, these side frames, a little tough to solder to. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the acid on our little screwdriver, and we are going to touch it first to the top of this guy. We're going to get one of these red wires on here. First we're going to tin it. So I got it in a vise here. Put just a little bit of acid on there. And I'm going to heat up the big chopper. Take our steel brush here, brush them off. Okay, remember when you use this guy, he will melt your parts straight up. Anything that's plastic will be totally melted and forever destroyed. What we're going to do, we get this guy heated up in the vise over here. All we need to do is just basically touch and go. I got it. That's it. That's all I need to do. That one is good. Now, on these, the red wire, remember I want the red wire on the right side. It doesn't. I want it on the right side of the locomotive. So that's how we're going to do it. The right side of the locomotive is the side that has these little arms in this particular one. The red wire needs to go towards the interior of the locomotive. The worm housing here is towards the end of the locomotive. So, using this 30 gauge wire, this kind that I like because I can just pinch it to strip it. Okay, now we're going to use the regular rosin. We'll have to acid off this. We're going to use the regular Radio Shack rosin flux, and we're going to tin this guy, and we'll tin him with our little soldering pencil. Got a little flux on there, just touch him with the little soldering pencil, and he's ready. But I don't want to sit here and heat this thing up because it will melt these side frames or they will warp. So I'm going to heat up the big chopper again, the one I told you guys not to use. For the different rules, there's always some reason that they can be broken or meant to be broken, but you really need to know what the rules are before you go breaking them. Alright, we got them heated up. Now, we got this guy tinned. Let's just go ahead and touch it, and that's it. There, I didn't heat it up to melt anything. We're good. That is another one done. Okay. Now the trickier one is the other side, the black wire side. And the reason this one is trickier is because we are going to heat up this part. When you heat that guy up, you can end up melting this whole thing down. So once again, let's go ahead. We're going to use some acid paste. Let's figure out where we want the black wire, and I will tell you, we want it near the axle closest to the motor. Between this little brass rivet and the spot for the axle, that's where we want that wire to be. And on this one, that spot will be right here. So I'm going to take a little bit of acid, a tiny bit. Now remember, this stuff will spread out and you got to clean it off from when you're done. So we just need to touch it barely to the spot we want. You see that? That's all I put on there. Tiny bit. Then I'm going to heat up the big guy. Oh, actually, we're going to put this in the vise first. I'm going to try to put this in here so that you can see what it is I'm going to do. See if we can get this in here a way where you can see it. And I don't want to crank down on this because it will wreck it, break it. Just want it held in there. Alright, so I got it in here like that. It's probably not the best way, but this is the way I'm going to put it in here so that you can see it. Got my tiny bit of acid. I'll heat up the big chopper. Got my little piece of solder here. I got some tiny electrical work solder. Okay. I know this guy is ready when he turns pretty bright red. And he's starting to get red. I wonder what this would look like in night vision. Let's check him out. Oh yeah, you see that? That's pretty hot, huh? Pretty cool, huh? Alright, let's get back to it. Now, all I need to do, now that he's red hot, I'm going to just touch it, rub it around. Got my spot. I'm going to have to use them again to put the wire on. First, I'm going to take the wire brush, just clean off some of that acid. Wipe it off. I'm going to wash this, and I am also going to paint it. I'm going to just primer this side in a little bit after I get the wires on, and I'll cover up the wires with a piece of tape. So I'm going to take my black wire now, and I'll go ahead, pinch off a little end here. Love that you can strip this wire without using on pliers. All right, just tin it. Right, got it done. So I have a particle board workbench, so I can just go right to the workbench top. Yeah, and it'll burn a little bit, but who cares? Takes years before you actually need to hit this thing with a sander and to clean it up a little bit. All right, heat up the big guy. I'm going to use the rosin flux on this wire. Got him tinned. Heat up the big guy. Let's check him out. Let's see if we can see him in night vision when he's hot. Okay, it's heating up. It's getting hot. Take a look at that. Oh yeah, it's hot now. Okay. Now, I have my little bead of solder on here, and I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to touch him. And there it is. We are now secure. That is our wire. See how easy that was? I need to clean this to get that acid off there, which I'm going to do. I'm going to use a little dish soap, and then I'm going to get some primer on it. And I will probably not paint it any other color than I'm going to put some brown primer on here, and then hit it a little later with a little black wash and leave it at that. Alright, so what was I going to do about this fuel tank over here? I have an idea. Don't know if we're going to do it yet, but I have these 2-part fuel tanks for, I believe, an SD26. Now they are not quite long enough to get on here, and they need a little machine. Might look kind of cool. We'll see when we get to that part. We'll find out. All right, let's move on to the next part. All right, we are ready to put together these trucks. Now I got the wheel sets and I did gauge them all, and they're all good. So I'm not gonna do like we did with that SDP40. These wheel sets are pretty good. All the ends have been a little graphite on them. We are going to do the modification for the floating axle. Now here's the one truck that I already did. Yep, it's going to be an EMD truck on a GE C44. But that's what we started out to do, was go to the scrap yard and get whatever we had. Now, this truck turned out really nice. So we're going to go through the same procedure that we did on the SD40T-2, and this would work on any Athearn 3-axle truck. So what we've got here is we have the two halves, and I've already soldered my wires onto them, and then I sprayed them with a little black primer. Then I cleaned the sockets with the wire brush so that there's pickup, and I took the fiberglass cutoff wheel, and I made a little notch, just a tiny bit right here with the cutoff wheel, just a little bit, so that middle axle has some up and down play in it, just like we did before. Alright, so it's really pretty straightforward. There are only two kinds of gears. So there's the big idler gear, goes right in the middle. The other four gears, they go in their spots. Alright, there it is. So now what we need to do, I'm going to put a little grease on it. As usual, I'm going to use my high temp disc brake wheel bearing grease. This is like a lifetime supply of it. I'm never going to run out of this. So I only need a little bit on my little screwdriver here, and I will get some in the axle here, or in the gear teeth. We don't need much. Once I send it around, the grease will spread out. And as I've said in all the previous videos, using a grease like this, I've never had it harden up on me like the old Labelle stuff does. But as with any locomotive, if you're going to use it a lot, even if you're not going to use it, at some point when you want to run it, you're going to be doing an overhaul, cleaning it out, cleaning the gears, washing them with dish soap, and then putting lube on it. And I happen to like this disc brake gear stuff, this disc brake grease. I'm going to put a tiny bit on each, little bit on the gear on each axle, just a little bit. This stuff will work its way around, and the nice thing, it's mostly going to stay put. It is not going to run, and you're not going to see grease puddles all over the place. If you've seen some people use machine oil, if you've gotten a locomotive where they've used machine oil, you know that it spreads everywhere, and we don't like that. When it spreads, what does it do? Picks up dust, picks up dirt, and you have a whole lot of dirt. I've seen a lot of locomotives that I've gotten at train shows that have carpet fibers in them. So, I mean, that's a sign possibly that some kids ran on the floor, which is, hey, that's what they're for. That's what they're built for. Alright, I got two halves together. Let's insert, these nuts can be a little tricky to get in here, but we will get them lined up. And we might need a little tap from our little screwdriver here. Sometimes they take a little tap. There we go, that's one. Let's get this middle guy in here. Good, he's got nice back and forth. That's what we want to see. Now there is another modification that you can make, which I'm not going to do unless it's absolutely necessary. And there is another modification you can make to pick up more power. Now, I don't think that will be necessary on this one. This is probably going to pick up power really nicely. But you can take this stuff right here, phosphor bronze wire from Tai Chi. See, it's pretty cheap. You get a whole bunch of it. You can use that and you can get it to brush these nuts on the wheels. You can solder it on to the steel here, and you can get a little extra pickup. I think this one's going to be good to go. We're going to find out. If it is not good to go, that would be the next step that it would take. If I find I'm not getting enough electricity from this thing, I will go ahead and do that. Now, I put my clips on. Remember, we got them off so we didn't break them. There we go. Yep. And get that grease in there a little bit. Alright, now get some side frames on here. This is definitely going to be interesting with these EMD side frames on this GE locomotive. But these days, you know, you never know what could happen. If you've ever seen Burlington Northern U25Cs, you saw that they had, sometimes they came with Alco trucks on them. Alright, there it is. That's it. That one's ready. Okay. I already did the other one. How does it run? Very nice. Does a very good job. Okay. Now what we're going to do, take this Marvel oil, and we are going to do the thrust washers. So I'm using my tiny screwdriver. And if you remember how we did this, I put a pinhead of this oil on the tip of my screwdriver. There's a pinhead on there. Now, on here, there's a thrust washer right there. I touch it, and that is it. I'm going to use the same grease on the worm gear, but on the thrust washer, I'm going to use this stuff. And there's a lot of other stuff you could use. Break free would be one good one that you could use. You don't want very much because you don't want this to spread around a lot, but you do want some lube on the thrust washer. And that is good maintenance, but remember, at some point in the future you're going to be doing this again. You're going to give this locomotive will be ready for a good workout. And if you run them a lot, you're going to go through them later. You're going to come right back and go through these same steps again. You'll wash all the parts, clean it all up, and you'll then be right where you are right now. Alright, so let's check it out. Are we ready to put the frame back together? I do believe we are. Like I said, this will work. These techniques will work on any Athearn 6-axle that has this format right here, like our SD40T-2. Okay, and the red is on the right. There's something not right here though. We've got something backwards. Okay, I can tell you right now. Something here. Oh, we are totally backwards. This one goes here, This one goes there. I had this one here just to look at. Like I said, I want the red wire on the right. That's the way I want it. Okay, I want red is always right. So let's go on, feed our wires through. These wires, I made them way too long. You don't need them this long. They're this long just to show you what we're doing here. Okay. See that the interest, oh, you know what we didn't do? We can't do this yet. We got to do couplers, don't we? Yep, we got to do couplers. Do couplers. Then we'll come back to this. And there's always something we forget. And as long as we're at it, we're going to do this fuel tank too. We could do that later, but let's do it now. Then we'll put these back in place. All right, let's get to it.